And? Try to screw it up less next time, although we can't possibly screw it up as badly as the city is screwing this.
And
welcome to the This Week in Worcester podcast. I am Tom Marino. I am editor of This Week in Worcester. This is Mr. John Edward Keogh. He is the executive producer of Manager Media. He is the president of Hollywood Film Group and a contributor to This Week in Worcester. Hello, Mr. Keogh.
Hello, sir. It's been a couple weeks, bro. I don't know how I've been able to make it without you.
I promptly called you out on through our social media's channels for being the cause of our cancellation last week. And how dare you?
I took full responsibility on several platforms. It was my fault. It was definitely my fault. But I was doing something really cool, though.
I was going to say, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you blew us off last week? Us being me and the rest of the people.
So we were doing something spectacular. The short film Solace, written by and directed by Thomas J. Dwyer, also known as Tommy J. Dwyer, also known as Tom Dwyer. There's probably a bunch of other names that I could call him. But anyways, that's my buddy. And he wrote a script with the goal of trying to get it into the Dead of Winter Horror Festival next month. And it was tremendous. So I joined on as the producer for it. And we were able to get it done. Last weekend, we shot it over 3 days at the Whitcomb Mansion at 51 Harvard Street in Worcester. We had a tremendous crew. Every filmmaker was from New England. We had folks from Worcester working there. Manny got a chance to work a day. Leanne was the production coordinator. And it was just awesome. And then right now we're in the editing process. It's looking amazing. And I'm super excited to show the quality of film that we can make right here in the city. It was completely funded by local businesses, which is, obviously that's part of the goal of what we do on our show here, what Manny does on Manny's platform. What I've done with Hollywood Film Group is, a different way of marketing, using local businesses to try to get things out there. So it was really cool, very exciting, and that's why I missed the show. But I did just so you people out there know that, so Tom doesn't, just run me down all the time that I'm this horrible human who misses shows. I offered to do a live from there while we were on set, but Tom didn't want to do that because he was going to miss me if he had to do any part of the show without him. And I understand because I'm awesome. So it's completely understandable.
But no, it wasn't really that at all, even slightly. It was that like you come in live from on set, and that's cool. But it's a little like off the topic of our show, and then it's just me and my stupid face sitting here after you have to go back to work on the movie, and I didn't think that would be very enjoyable, for the folks. So
I don't know about that because I have to say this in the chat. There's a lot of people that. Hashtag Tom is hot. So I think that you have a fan base that would have enjoyed very much, watching you talk right there on screen. That's right. Tighten up a little bit over there.
Well, I was just adjusting myself. I can adjust myself. I would just like to point out that it's totally on brand for me that anybody that would say such a thing is insane. So moving on. Thank you for joining us today. We have some cool stuff to talk about. Want to start with a bit of an update on the Department of Justice investigation and the resulting what's left of this process with the city of Worcester and its police department. As I'm sure you all know, a report came out last month. Now the situation goes into a negotiation process between the city and the Department of Justice on coming to kind of a final resolution here on what the city's going to do. However, the newly inaugurated president, uh, his Department of Justice announced that all civil rights investigations are going to be suspended until further notice. That includes really important investigations in Minneapolis and in New York City. And also, there's another town. Oh God, I'm going to forget what town it was. But it was a town in New York or city in New York.
Mount
Uh,
something.
yeah, I forget what it was now. That report was released 2 days after Worcester's, and that one's also been suspended. But we have learned some interesting stuff about the current status of the investigation in Worcester. John, take it away.
Yeah, so the same sources that provided us with some of the information that we used in our story, and some of the things we've talked about in the show earlier this year, told me that they were told to continue operations as normal. The new U.S. attorney, which I'm going to say her name wrong, Leah. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, I
Mm,
forget apologies, I forget her name too. But you also should note that
Leah Foley. Who is
she's interim, by the way,
That's right.
because yeah.
No, she was appointed over the interim. So I don't know. I don't know if she's been confirmed yet because I think that's
I don't think she has. Yeah.
right. But yeah, she made her public statements said that they were going to look at the order, but she didn't answer directly when asked about this particular thing, which is interesting because around the country these investigations have been, as far as we can see, have been suspended. I don't know what that means exactly, but our sources
Well,
over at
so
sources over there have said they've been told to continue as is.
and so the order that was issued from the administration or DOJ or whatever uh, said ordered not only investigations to stop, but any filings in court, anything related to the investigations out of the Civil Rights Division, which would of course include these investigations that we're talking about with police departments, pattern and practice investigations.
And my only thought, and again, this is my opinion. This is speculation. I can't confirm speculation or not. But my opinion is that I have thought about this investigation for a long time. That there is some um, fire to the smoke that we've seen, and that there may be at some point. And again, this is speculation. A criminal referral. I'm not saying all the police officers are going to get arrested, but I think there
That
may
is
be.
absolutely not going to happen.
Right. I am saying that maybe there is one particular officer, maybe two, that have been the investigations are further along, if that makes sense. And that's just that's informed speculation. It's not confirmed, but it is informed. And I think that's what's gonna happen. And I think there might be some people somewhere in the Trump administration who probably read that stuff somewhere that were the same people that let this get announced, approved its announcement when it got announced. And I think that there's some real serious issues there, and they need to investigate it all the way. And if at least they're doing their due diligence to find out if they can squash it, and get away with it. But they might not be able to because again, I think there's some fire where the smoke has been seen.
Yeah. So it
Oh, that
would.
was a pretty I walked that journalistic line right there, bro. I'm just saying that was like A-level stuff right there.
I would. It was something I wanted to push back on, and now I forgot. But it would appear, this is of course speculatory, not confirmed in any way. I'm just speculating here. It appears as if at least the whoever made that statement, the interim U.S. attorney or the yet to be for the pending U.S. attorney, it seems like a statement that says, I don't want to be associated with killing this.
Yeah, I think that that's what I understand. I think that um I think that I mean, it's a serious investigation. It's not, again, it's not a joke. What some of these charges, and that's why the response to me by some of the city entities was so baffling. That it was, it was delivered in the way it is. I'll put another thing to you. The attorney that the city hired was openly advocating to get this role as the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, and he did not get that job. So that should tell you something too. It indicates that maybe there is something to it, and maybe they really want to look at the details. Tom and I feel like we've done a pretty good job of trying to walk this line. I don't want to go off the deep end. I mean, I've had plenty of interactions on Facebook with various people, but this is a serious situation and should be viewed seriously. And I wish there would be some folks at the police department that would take it as seriously as the chief seems to have. And so, yeah, he's definitely out of the running, Sean. He was not even nominated or put forward. The only name that I saw was Leah Foley. That was the only name that I saw. There was an interim that was named the day that what's his name stepped down, and
Josh, yeah.
Josh the day that the former guy stepped down, and 3 days later, the day after Trump's inauguration, Leah Foley was named as the new interim. And then again, I don't know when the Senate votes on that stuff. The Senate isn't the Senate on recess or something for like a week. I don't know, something like that. The House is. Somebody's on a recess and they have to finish all the appointments, and so we'll see when that happens.
Yeah. And so
thoughtful pose.
Yeah, I was just looking up the statement real quick. It is so look, that could change at any second, right? This
Sure.
could be that the U.S. attorney is pushing back, saying, "Hey, there's something here that needs to be pursued," and that might come from up the chain of command. That's nice. Shut it down. So maybe this is going nowhere because it sure seems like. I mean, look, that the department in Minneapolis has been troubled for many, 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 many years. It obviously came to national prominence just a few years ago with George Floyd, but that opened the dam of criticism for that department that's been going on there locally for a very long time. It's a bad department and has been for a long time. And so that was a really important investigation, and that's seemingly been shuttered. Doesn't give me a lot of it gives me worry, because I'm telling you, if this thing goes away, the police, the maybe not at the chief level, but certainly the rank and file and the unions will just scream that, see, nothing happened. It was all a lie.
I mean, you could see that it's happened, and even in a general sense, I've and this is again my own interactions, but vice president of 504, Anthony Petrone, is online all of a sudden. He's very prominent now in the more public facing Facebook groups. He's all over the place making commentary because I think he feels empowered because of what happened. He feels like the mayor and the city manager let him skate, and so because he feels like that, he's out and about. And this is the same guy who bullied a 17-year-old girl online, led to death threats against her family, and had to apologize in a negotiated settlement by city manager Batista. And it's the same guy who threatened local activists and president of the Caribbean Carnival Association, Jen Gaskin, in the same Facebook group years earlier, and had to have a negotiated apology from former city manager Ed Augustus. That guy is now prominently all over social media talking about public-facing issues. He obviously feels like there's no way that he's ever going to get caught out for that stuff, even though he was forced to publicly apologize. No shame on that man at all, which is amazing to me. It blows my mind. And so I think that what you're saying, Tom, makes a lot of sense, that if it does go away, it would empower people like that to just do whatever they want. And so, maybe somebody somewhere said that, hey, we should take a look at this. I'll tell you this about Leah Foley. One thing that I noticed, and it stood out to me, is Elizabeth Warren and what's his name? Ed Markey, the other senator, does nothing for Massachusetts. Anyways, the two senators from Massachusetts, who often can, even in a partisan environment, can like steer who gets picked for these roles, had nothing negative to say about Leah Foley. So she must be a well-respected attorney. veteran of the local Massachusetts scene. So maybe we got good. Maybe we got a good one. I don't know. Who knows? You never know. It could randomly happen. Maybe not everything is going wrong in the world. Maybe I'm hopeful. Maybe I'm too hopeful.
Yeah, she's actually not the acting attorney, so maybe she was confirmed. I don't.
If she was confirmed, that's fast, Tom. You know what I mean? That would
Yeah, no,
indicate.
it says appointed.
Yeah.
They are. They have to be confirmed. Yeah, so I'm not sure what her status is, but
Mm.
they're referring to her as the U.S. attorney and not interim. Anyway, so so that's where that is.
Mm.
Maybe there's some hope because it seems like there's pushback from uh, people within DOJ. It seems on this, specifically to the Worcester case.
Yeah.
I certainly hope that it continues because if it doesn't, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. Again, I think if there was nothing to it, it would have been shut down on day one, just like some of the other cases around the country, right? If someone in the Trump administration thought they could get away with it, like point blank, they would have done it, and they didn't. So there's something there, and somebody somewhere is doing some form of due diligence, whether it's this new U.S. attorney or somebody else. And again, according to my sources, they have not been told to stop, and that the team that was in place stayed in place. So, and those are things you can look up. You can go right on you can see the staff roster and see who's there and figure out on your own time who it is that's talking to John. And so, I mean, that's not, I mean, that's as far as I can go. I can't name people, but I can say at least that. And, I mean, I think that indicates, again, this is a long running investigation that has uncovered some stuff. And so I think there's more to it than what we've heard about, for sure.
Oh, of course, of course. I mean, I'd imagine that just like the things that we write, when the DOJ put this report together, they reported a small fraction of what they heard.
Right. And again, I think that this is a great document for people to read to kind of get an understanding of, I think, a really well done investigation, because they got a lot more interviews than what was reported in the summary. Way, way more. If you just go back and look at the numbers of the conversations that they mentioned. And then if you went to the public here, the little public event they did with the little breakout sessions, their spokesperson there had said that they had that the number that Tom and I reported, over 100 conversations. So there was, and maybe they didn't separate them as much as we did, with into police versus non-police, right? But they definitely indicated that this was a well thought and detailed investigation of over 100 interviews, and included thousands of documents. The city manager said so many documents that when they had forwarded it to them, initially they couldn't accept it all, and they had to take some time to review even more. So that's the city manager's own words. And same thing with the chief of police in his article in the Telegram Gazette, said that it took them more than a year to review the documents that they had forwarded when he became the new chief. So obviously they didn't just put it together in a weekend. Right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Which was kind of how it was presented by the city's attorney and then by the police union heads. Was like, yeah, they threw this together in a couple days and just put it out there because they wanted to get something in before President Trump got inaugurated. But again, it stayed, and it has had lasting staying power. I think it's kind of hanging over the city too a little bit, and is coloring this year's election season, because there's going to be people, I think, that are going to get tough questions. You know what I mean? People that are like pro police. We're going to talk about that later in the show about the different people. But I mean, I'm going to ask the questions with Manny and with you, of these people running like, hey, do you support police officers doing X? Right? I mean, if that, like, anybody who says I'm pro police and I'm pro first responder, that's a typical election season vague thing, right? That people say. Well, I'm going to follow up on that with a direct question. Do you support police officers, I don't know, using over the pants hand jobs as an investigative tool? Is that do you feel like that's normal? Should that be done? And I want to hear what they have to say. And I don't think that they are expecting that kind of pushback, but I do think that there's enough people now, including you and me, including Manny, including the folks over at Worcester Sox, and I think some new younger reporters here in the city are gonna ask tough questions this year that maybe haven't happened in other election seasons.
Yep, agreed. And I just note that although the city council, passed an item about having public hearings, which it doesn't have the power to do, it keeps saying it does, but that's a different topic. And yet we have not seen one materialize or a date announced or anything.
Of course, I mean they could just announce it and push it off into the again these things. I do excuse me. I do like the public groundswell of rallies and people going to city council. That's great to see that there's lines of people every week, 50, 100 and 200 people are going to these meetings and you're getting all the new people that I haven't seen before engaged. And so I hope the city council sees that. At least sees that. Maybe they think it won't amount to anything, but I don't remember this, Tom. Do you remember this level of engagement at city council meetings in January of any
Well,
year?
I think it's topic dependent, though.
Yeah, I agree. I understand. Yeah, but it's been really for about 6 months now, right? Really, really like deep driven, really passionate speeches being made. Even for some of the smaller, topics like we've covered, like the cable license thing. I mean, it wasn't just me that got up there and complained about it. There's been a lot of pressure on these city councilors to be responding to the actual constituents and not, the 6 developers that pay all the bills for the campaigns. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Just taking shots, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, we should. I've spent a lot of time in my life in campaign finance records for local folks, and still don't think I've covered enough. So you make a point there.
Deep dive, baby.
So that's where that stands. It seems like things are moving forward for now, but of course that could change at any second because we have a new administration who apparently has decided that it does not prioritize civil rights.
Definitely a lot of stuff going on in Washington that you have not seen before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess we're focused on Worcester. That would be another hour-long show.
Right.
On just the Gulf of America now. Can you do that? I didn't even know you could do that.
Well, going into disaster areas and saying we're going to eliminate FEMA.
Yeah, that's a new one. That was a brand new one. I hadn't seen that coming. That was brand new. I didn't see that.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah.
We also had, and of course, because John was doing important work last week, we did not have a discussion about the accusations of anti-trans bigotry within City Council, and that's all really wrapped around this discussion about decorum and and remote meetings and remote participation by members of council in meetings.
Yeah.
Let's start with the remote thing because that's kind of where this starts, right? So, COVID era law in Massachusetts says that that expires this coming March, this coming in 2 months. It's like those provisions expire unless they're extended, which doesn't look like they're going to be, at least at this point. But it was because of COVID that people that are members of, in this case, City Council, but any public body, could participate remotely. And the mayor introduced an item in City Council asking the appropriate committee to take a look at this and, for, I guess, its own edification on if the city should consider continuing this or not, because the state does not appear like the state is going to continue it. And it was pretty obvious, and the mayor said so publicly, that he does not think it's good. He thinks the meetings run slower and worse when people are not present. And he's probably right. However, in the city of Worcester, I believe council's making $36,000 a year this year, and
Part-time,
I'm supposed
maybe?
to. They're supposed to be part time, but at least as a district counselor, it is absolutely not a part time gig.
No way.
So really, the only people that can and can afford to do this job as a city council, to run for council, is retired folks, people that have businesses and or high level jobs where they have flexibility in their schedule of some sort, or people that are independently wealthy, that sort of scenario, right? I mean,
Are
somebody that
you
works at 9 to
independently wealthy?
I am not. Somebody who works 9 to 5 really can't do this job. A couple
Right.
people do. Christian King does. Council King does. Councilor Hajidai does. Uh, I'm not sure about anybody else. I know they both work full-time day jobs. I'm not sure.
I
I
mean,
just don't know about everybody else.
Mayor Petty has a role as like I think he's a lawyer for the housing fund, trust fund in Boston. He drives to Boston on a regular basis. Donna works. Um, Louis Ojeda is a
There's a school teacher. Yeah.
school teacher. So and then Jenny has a full time. Jenny's I think she's still the editor for Pulse,
For
right?
Pulse, yeah. I think it's part-time though.
Yeah. But I mean, so they all have. I mean, as far as I know, almost all of them have jobs.
Well, yeah. I
I
mean, I think Councilor Bergman, Councilor Russell have businesses, right?
yeah,
Councilor Russell's in the real estate business. Uh,
yeah.
Councilor Bergman's an attorney. So that's basically who's
Kate works for the
restricted.
sheriff's department.
Right. Um, and so it's a very difficult thing to do, and be to do the job of being a city councilor if elected,
Hmm,
on the money you get paid, the time that's necessary to devote to it, and so remote participation doesn't fix that, but it expands it a little bit.
for sure, for sure. Again, I mean, I do understand the criticism of remote participation. Although we're doing this show remotely right now, right? We're not
Hmm.
together in the same place. Um,
We are not.
but I don't understand. But the thing is that it wasn't brought up uh, as an independent thing. It was brought up as a like a buffer against a different thing. And so, like, the timing of the argument makes no sense. All of a sudden, it became prominent when there was another issue was brought to the fore, which we'll talk about in a minute, right? So, to me, the timing stinks and smells, and it just looks real. To me, it looks really bad. And again, our city council just looks poorly managed and just totally dysfunctional. If this was an issue and as you said, the law is going to expire in March, it's something they should have talked about last fall, right? Like, hey, are we going to continue this? Because if the state ends it, the city could make an independent decision, which by the way, Boston already did, right? Boston has retained remote participation for sickness, right? So if someone's not feeling well, they can still participate remotely in the Boston City Council, which is a much more robust body than our own city council. And they dealt with it like I think I read I think it was like last June, right? That they're going to continue it in the case of sickness, right? So I mean, at least that was addressed. But in our city council, we're not even addressing that. We send it to some committee that doesn't do anything, and we're gonna, hash it about. I agree that it does make things slow down, but also it's 2025, right? Like, it is what it is. We're in an era where there is digital age, and so, I mean, I don't know that it's not impossible, Tom. That for the 20-year-olds of the day when they're running all the stuff, that they don't have everything running through their phones. You know what I mean? Because we're already on that track anyways. So, what's going to stop that from happening? I get that public people need to have access to their elected representatives. So there is that like qualifies it. Like, so you have to be able to say things to them. And so, but I mean, I'm for the Zoom thing. I don't have a problem with it. I guess, would you want to have a counselor there more often than not in person? I guess, but I don't. Again, I don't know. Now, the root of this, though, I think there's a reason behind it, and I think that when we talk about the next part, that's really where we should attach it to, versus the criticism from the mayor and from Councilor Merrill Carson, which I think was facetious at best. At best, when we deal with this, because why would you want to go to work if you were Councilor Nguyen and you have a feeling that you're not welcome, right? If you feel attacked on a regular basis, why would you want to be there?
Fact. Sean, you mentioned that Council Colorios also used to be, or maybe still is, a professor at Quincy.
Yeah.
And also wanted his comment on Council Nguyen. If you worked with if multiple coworkers treated you like garbage and you had the option to work from home and not have to deal with them in person, wouldn't you do it? Right. And so they want
Johnny D and me on the same wavelength.
so they want to take that option away, obviously. Or it's, the mayor's position is that it doesn't help. And I would just say that it's I think beyond time that we have full-time counselors, and then you can schedule meetings wherever and whenever you want. But that you're economically that it's economically prohibitive to run for council in this city, and now you want to take this option away. I think it's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah.
It's look what happens if they call a special meeting or you get a committee meeting at 5:00 and you get out of work at 5:00 because it's a part-time gig being a city councilor.
You can't beat it. And I also think it is interesting that some of those special meetings are called at the times that they're called, because it does look like it's designed and intentional to not have it. Now, if this rule goes away, for example, the city manager's vote on his contract wouldn't have had quorum, so they couldn't have voted, right? So I mean, like, there's some practical need for this kind of remote participation as well, if the mayor says that that's how they do things. Remember that special scheduled meeting after Council Nguyen had held the budget, the salary item for the city manager. There was only two councilors present, and it was Mayor Petty and Councilor Toomey, and there was no one else there. All the rest of the councilors were all remote. So that meeting wouldn't have been able to happen without Zoom or whatever it is they use, WebEx, which, by the way, the city chooses the worst possible.
No, they use Zoom now. They use Zoom now. They used to use WebEx.
Zoom? Is it?
Yeah, it's been Zoom for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
At least the council does.
Yeah.
So that's the bit about the remote part for me is you have part-time people. And it just makes it more restrictive to be able to afford to be able to be a city councilor.
Yeah, I mean, you need a big budget now, realistically, to be able to run. I've had a bunch of conversations with people this week. We're going to talk about that too, about people who have made some announcements to run for different seats. And realistically, the number that you're hearing just to be able to maybe be competitive, even in the district races, is probably $10,000 to $20,000. That's a significant number if you're only going to receive $30,000 as a salary. So if you we're going to risk it with your own money, right, which some people might want to do, you're gonna spend 2/3 of your potential first year salary to do it, and that doesn't seem feasible. And I don't know, is that 35,000 take home? That's not to take home pay. That's their pre-tax pay, right?
That's on payroll, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what do they get what do they get in take home? 25 grand? You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, I'm not sure, but I mean, nonetheless, whatever someone's tax situation is their tax situation. But I mean, it's not enough money to live on in the city.
No, for sure. It definitely isn't enough money to pay rent in the city. And so, unless you're, living in a place that's been grandfathered in by lucky landlords, you know what I'm saying? And then, or that you own something, or you have a family member, or maybe you're living 4 deep in a room, you know what I mean? Like, that's the only way to afford rent in the city right now. And so, that salary makes no sense. And so, yeah, Sean made it a point, unless you're crooked, that's the whole point. Like, so if you can pull in money from other places, but if you want to have any ethical and moral stand and not like take money from the chamber or take money from any of the big companies around here, you're going to have to go fundraise door to door. I mean, and I know from personal experience doing the movie fundraising, that's literally how I do it. It's not an easy thing to do. We've had some success the last couple weeks in being able to do it, but it is not easy to raise 10, 20, $30,000 from people that unless you know them. You know what I mean? So it's very hard. It's a very difficult thing to do. And I can't imagine that there's a lot of people who want to go through that. Plus, the traditional media scrutiny that comes with running in the city of Worcester. So as soon as you announce, there's a Ray Mariani hit piece if you're not inside the, if you're not inside the group, right? You know what I mean? Like I've speculated about running myself, and I know that that's coming. There's like a 13-page diatribe by Ray against me, talking about everything that happened since I was 6 years old, right? So I mean, and it's just going to be on the front cover of the Telegram and Gazette. So that I mean that, and not that I'm afraid of that because my life is a public life, so it is what it is. My only fear would be how that would affect other people around me, and so that is the one thing that keeps me from thinking about running. You know what I mean? So
yeah, well, Ray should inform some of us of anything that he accomplished during his time as an elected person in the city, besides protecting a pedophile, allegedly.
Good job with that aside right
there. You like that?
Can you see the court documents of this transcript right now? Like then John made a joke about it.
So that brings us to also the mayor had asked the same committee to look at decorum in other cities and how elected people are expected to behave.
Yeah.
Which appears to be a veiled shot at Councilor Nguyen as well for supporting petitioners on the Gaza ceasefire petition from a few weeks ago.
And this is, again, Tom, this is why I keep using the word mismanaged for the council, because what they're going to find is that, at least in the last 3 or 4 years, that decorum rules and restricting speech rules on the floors of city councils and town councils around the state of Massachusetts have been consistently knocked down by the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts. But don't let me end there. If you go and look at the nation's trends, the nationwide local municipalities have lost in court on speech issues over and over and over and over again. And we have a Republican dominated or a conservative dominated Supreme Court that has sided with petitioners like city councilors who have been silenced by the chair, town managers, city managers, mayors, all that kind of stuff. There are hundreds it's too many cases to read, but it's consistently over the past 4 years that those cases have resulted in losses for municipalities. So the city tracking in that direction means it's going to be another waste of our tax dollars. You're going to waste money on a potential losing lawsuit that apparently is losing everywhere, but particularly here in Massachusetts. It's been a losing battle over and over and over and over again. So why would you go down that road? And since we have multiple lawyers on the city council, why not do your own research? This, by the way, an interesting thing, Tom, the city has its own LexisNexis account, which LexisNexis is a legal research website, right? It's basically like Google for legal stuff. And the city council has access to that website. Right? This is something we asked earlier in the year, late last year, and we discovered that they have access to it. And then Councilor Bergman mentioned it on the floor that he's able to use LexisNexis through the city. So you would think that instead of going to have the city manager's law department look up those cases, they could just log on and look up the cases themselves. Type in municipalities lost free speech with councilors, blah, and you'll get a bunch of results. It's really not
those cases. So I'm aware of cases about citizens speaking in council.
A lot of those, yeah. But
there's cases on elected representatives too.
Yeah, oh yeah, all over the country. But in Massachusetts, there's multiple unelected representatives, particularly on the issue of using curse words, right? So that happened in Tewksbury. There's a case in Tewksbury. I can get the name for you, where one of the city councilors called the chair an effing dirtbag, and then the chair held him in contempt. The councilor sued and won because effing dirtbag is protected speech. I can, you can use that term. Now, where's the line? The line is when like there's actual personable threats that are enacted. So if you and I if I'm a city councilor and you're a city councilor and I start saying, Tom, I'm going to hit you, and it's like it's actually defined threats, that is the line of free speech permissible within municipal governments. So, but that, by the way, that's logic. Why is that such a hard legal standard to understand? I can use the F word all I want. I don't like to use the F word. I try not to swear too much. Whenever I do swear in front of Tom, he goes, "Whoa!"
I celebrate.
He celebrates, and other people too, because I really don't. I really try not to do it, but it has nothing to do with anything that you do. Like if you want to swear, I don't care. It's just a personal thing for me where I try not to do it. But in this case, I believe that the current city council rules are unconstitutional. And so, why wouldn't they look at that first and see, hey, I want to hear John swear. No, I'm not doing that, Maria. But you know what I mean? Like, look, why wouldn't they look at that first? Like when they make these decisions, I feel like a lot of them are reactionary decisions. And again, they were trying to punish Counselor Nguyen. So it's like, we got to punish Counselor Nguyen. So we're just going to put these orders on here and not think them through at all, which just goes towards my point that I've been making on a regular basis. This city council is broken and totally mismanaged, and it needs to be replaced almost in mass, and changed over, into a new group.
Um, I'm not going to go there. That's up to voters. The Also worth noting, as Maria brought up in the chat, also seeing that this was aimed at the order on decorum was also aimed at Councilor King, who, using his words, momentarily lost his composure during a meeting three meetings ago, I believe, when there was discussion about the DOJ police report, where, if I remember correctly, the mayor appeared to interrupt him while he was speaking after he called the public safety committee impotent.
Yes, and he
which
did.
Which it is. And
I agree with Councilor King. He was spot on about that committee. Completely impotent.
And the mayor appeared to interrupt, and I think he said that that's not fair, which is not a point of order. And Councilor King got a little upset, saying, "Tell the mayor, if you're gonna speak, come down and speak," and kind of approached the podium as if to take the chair, which he's Councilor King is the vice chairperson. So if the mayor is going to speak on an item, going to provide commentary on an item, he actually has to step down from the chair. It's a procedural thing.
Yeah.
And so, but King got a bit loud about it and was upset at being interrupted for commentary, and so seemed to be, that seemed to be what this order was also aimed at. And then, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, so it is not against the rules of our country for someone to get frustrated. This is the thing that really. So we literally. So I don't care where your political spectrum is, right? One group is allowed to yell and scream all the time, but one is not. Even if you're politically opposed to Councilor King, he has every right to yell and get upset, just like someone on a more conservative beat would yell and get upset, or someone on the liberal side would get more upset. He has the right to do that. There is no logical sense about a frustrated moment being somehow a terrible thing, and that we're all going to judge him. And the stuff that's happened online, the ridiculous, the Worcester Politics 101, those guys Screw you guys. Red Metro, Seven Hills, all you guys you're all nonsensical because one, it's based in racism. You just don't like him because he's black. That's a fact. And you just want to silence him at any opportunity. The fact that he felt that he had to apologize for that is ridiculous. You're allowed to be frustrated. You're allowed to be frustrated. It's okay to be mad. That's not against the rules. It's stupid that we even have to have this conversation. And then Mayor Petty is, in my opinion, and I have a long relationship with him, and I've told him this to his face. I have no problem saying things to his face. His response is such a schoolyard response. It's so wrong for him to say, don't threat. There's no threat there. And that comes from someone who's not used to having pushback. Right? He just expects to have his way. And so when he gets yelled at, he called it a threat. It's so ridiculous, Tom. The entire conversation is stupid. And it doesn't make any sense at all. And so I support Counselor. I wish Counselor King didn't apologize. I really do. I wish he held his ground. And I'm sorry to him. I apologize to Counselor King that we live in a city that forces him to apologize for being frustrated. That's ridiculous. And I want to swear right now, but I'm not
Yeah. And so at the meeting, when those things were discussed, this is now, I think, 2 meetings ago, Councilor Nguyen spoke specifically. I think they spoke toward the meeting, the remote meeting item, and accused Councilor Toomey and the mayor of misgendering them at some point, and said that another counselor had been referring to them as it in private conversations. And then a day later, I believe it was Councilor Nguyen put out a statement and said that it was allegedly Councilor Merrill Carlson who had used what they defined, and I agree, is a slur against trans people, and is not appropriate. And I've said on this show and in other forums that Councilor Merrill Carlson is one of my favorite people, but it would appear that there were. It sounds like, I have not confirmed. I wouldn't say I've run this down to the point where I could say that this is confirmed. It would appear that there were witnesses to this that came forward, and so, and Councilor Merrill Carlson didn't exactly issue a denial. So, if that's the case, it is completely unacceptable.
I have had similar conversations with folks in the city, and I can tell you this, that one of the people that witnessed this is a current sitting city councilor. So, I'm hopeful that that person will eventually come out and confirm it, and not a person named in all these conversations. So, but again, and this term is the equivalent for folks that are trans people. It's the equivalent of not of words that we're not allowed to say in public, right? That we shouldn't say in public. And the easiest way to deal with this is, I'm an Irish guy, and the word for Irish people that's dirty is Mick, right? That's that word, and it was used, throughout my childhood by mostly Italian kids. I would call me a Mick, and I would call them a word back, which you probably all know. And that was a constant, back and forth when I was a kid. This is the same kind of thing as that. It rises to the same level of that. And it is typical of Worcester to have older folks that are Worcesterites having this conversation, and because they don't understand somebody who's different than them, they use words like that. And that's what it was done. It was done to hurt. It was done intentionally in their hearing, so they could hear it. They were made to feel uncomfortable. It's the high school nature of city council, walking down the hallway, ignoring people, not talking to them, and then saying bad things about them in the media, saying bad things about them to their friends. The cliquey nature of the city council, which just has continued to suck for 50 years, right? It's just that's our city. We can't get out of our own way with our leadership group because of this kind of behavior. And if it wasn't true, why did Councilor Carlson vote to apologize? Why did Mayor Petty vote to apologize? right? And so I mean, Councilor Colorio and Councilor Bergman, who both voted against the petition to apologize, said that they have never said such a thing. That was their statement. I've never said anything like that, so I'm not going to vote to apologize for something I didn't do. That was the equivalent of their testimony, both of them, right? So why?
Well, I don't know actually. So I don't believe that Council Clorio spoke to the issue, and
No,
I
no,
think
no,
and I believe what Council Bergman said was um, that an apology could be construed
an admission.
as an admission of wrongdoing, and therefore he didn't want to incur liability by uh, uh, admitting fault. But yet, the way that the actual petition was worded was not the council admitting fault. It was expressing, was apologizing for what Councilor Nguyen has endured on both the state and national, local and national levels. There was a Fox News report apparently about this whole thing that was.
Oh, it was it made the BBC in England. It was on the BBC. It was everywhere. It was all over the world. That this report made it. And which I don't know how that happened. I don't know why it became such a big deal, but it really did spread around really, really quickly. And you know, because there's some meat on the bone, Tom. Right. So I think that when Fox News is reporting it, right, and the BBC, there's the smoke that you're seeing, there's fire behind the smoke, right? So somebody somewhere, there was so many reporters involved with this, it was ridiculous. That we know that this is most likely that it happened, but the culture of uncomfortability that is perpetuated by the majority of the council, that has existed for now a significant period of time, that is not a new story. That is not a new story, right? Councilor Hajjaj expressed herself about, being accused of not of her refugee story not being true by a fellow councilor. We've heard Councilor King express being looked down upon and treated poorly in the city. This is not a new story, folks. This is, and by the way, it's not just from sitting councilors. Councilor Sarai Rivera mentioned this on a regular basis, being referred to with another different slur, right? So this is not a new story in City Hall, that the City Hall culture that is being perpetuated is negative towards the minority group. And I'm not saying minority as in terms of someone who has an ethnic minority, but the minority on the council itself is usually attacked by the majority on the council. That is a consistent theme our whole lives in the city of Worcester. And so it just doesn't make any sense that we wouldn't believe this story, unless, of course, there's an agenda against an individual councilor, which that's what it seems to be, or three individual councilors, right? That's kind of how it seems to be perpetuated in the media.
Yeah. I mean, look, some of the tension, at least, I don't think the use of any slur is acceptable, especially in the workplace and especially by elected official. But that said, the tension makes a lot of sense, because you basically have what's breaks down a lot to on anything that they disagree on at all. Kind of often breaks down into a 6-5 split vote now. And so when you have a one person, majority, or you're one person in the minority of a legislative body, that is going to cause tension. So some of the tension is I think sort of predictable. For it to manifest in some of the ways that it has, though, is just like kid stuff. It's high school stuff.
Yeah, high school.
And I just wanted to add that Councilor Nguyen's claims about the mayor and Councilor Toomey was that it happened during a meeting. They both say that it was inadvertent, and they apologize for it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's talk about that real quick. So let's go to the national story of the year, which is that the referring to someone by the preferred pronoun, right? This is a story that we have had to listen to for years and years now.
Oh my God! Just call people what they ask you to call them. That's it.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard, man. It's actually, once you realize that to me, you know what it is, Tom? You have to think about who you're talking to. You just have to take a minute and actually consider the person in front of you. And our leaders don't have the ability to do that. And instead, we have this nationwide movement of people that are like, oh, I refuse to do that. Really, who cares? It's just a word. It doesn't mean anything if you for you. Like why does that, why is that so important? You know, and
Well,
it's
it's very simple because these people don't think that, well, that
it just doesn't make sense, Tom,
they
to
don't
me.
believe that trans is a real thing. They think it's, probably the most bigoted thing that these people say. Nah, probably not the most bigoted, but one of the bigoted things that these people say is, it's just people playing dress up, and it's not.
Who,
And you're an
who
idiot, and you can't read, or you choose not to if you think that that's what's going on.
but that's the thing though. If that's how you feel, why why do you feel the need to push that onto somebody else? If that's how you feel, fine. I could care less about everybody's opinions. Opinions, more and more as I get older, mean absolutely nothing. Right? They don't mean anything. It's just an opinion. It's just something that people have. Like another body part, right? We could talk about that all day. But the thing is that it's not that hard. It's really not. Now I'm 42 years old. When it first was something that I learned is while I was a student at Clark University just a few years ago. So I was an adult student. I was older, and I was lucky to have a younger student that was 20, kind of like walk me through it and teach me, right, like why and how and what they were going through and their understanding of these things. And I felt like this person was really expressing themselves to me and telling me, why it was important to them. And so was it hard at the beginning? Did I forget at the beginning? Absolutely. Yeah, of course.
I
But
still, I still forget. I still screw it up. But all you do when you realize it is you just correct yourself
yeah, to say
and
sorry.
acknowledge that you have, any amount of respect for other human beings.
But in the end, and I'm not trying to say that like other people need to go around correcting other people's words. I'm not saying that. But it's really just not that hard. It's really not. Now, on the other side of this thing, I mean, there is definitely folks who then go to the other end of the spectrum. If you do misgender someone, they will try to destroy your life, right? So there is that other side, which I think probably is too far. But in this particular case, there's a person at the center of this, a person, a human being who's expressed themselves and said, I feel uncomfortable, unwanted, and unwelcome in a job I was elected to. That's how Councilor Nguyen has expressed themselves, that they feel uncomfortable, unwanted, and not safe in that space. And that makes no sense at all. It's the stupidest thing ever. And it goes to mismanagement by the city council and the mayor. This should not be the environment. It doesn't matter if they're telling the truth. We should not hear this. It doesn't matter. This should not be coming out of the city council. So to have them put orders about decorum and Zoom and blah 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 and all this other stuff before they have good working relationships with people shows how poorly managed this city council is. And I thought I would never see a city council as poorly managed as the ones before it. But they have risen to new levels, Tom, of just ridiculousness. How can you not have a basic, decent working relationship with somebody who is your peer? They were all elected to their roles. Different vote totals, doesn't matter. They got there through the people electing them. Why can't you take the time to care about them enough that this kind of thing doesn't happen? It makes no sense. And to me, it becomes disqualifying, Tom. If you can't manage this, how in God's name can you manage the city of Worcester? Seriously, the second largest city in New England. How? How can you manage this if you can't manage that? Basic adult behavior.
And lastly, on the agenda, I got nothing to add. That was pretty good. And lastly on our agenda tonight, we just wanted to talk a little bit about. We'll do some speculation, if you will, on on who's running or who's announced. There wouldn't be speculating on those that announced. Of course, papers can't even be pulled yet, so never mind filed. So this is all what people say, and what's kind of been said. But
Shawnee D for mayor. Oh, sorry.
I think the saddest news of well, I'm no tied. I think with the two councils announced that they will not be running for re-election. Council Russell in District 3, who's I think is in his 7th term and will be 68 by the time of the election. He's decided he will not run again. I don't always agree with Council Russell politically, but he has been the true swing vote on that council right now. And disagree with him plenty on votes he takes, but sometimes he surprises you and takes a position that is at least appears to be purely on principle. And so again, don't agree with him often, but respect him a great deal. And even more sad than that, I think, is that Jenny Pasillo, who is the current district councilor in District 1, in her first term, now Jenny has been involved in that community for absolutely ever. Didn't missed one of their community meetings this year. I think she said it was the first one she hadn't been to in 5 years or something, some ridiculously long time. So she did the work to earn the votes for that seat long before she ever decided to run.
For sure.
And told I think Mass Live that she's decided to spend more time with her family. I'm sure that that's a consideration, but I think she just hates it.
Yeah,
and that is not what she told me. Just for the record, she did not tell me that. I do talk to Council Pasillo from time to time. She did not use. I haven't talked to her since she announced that she was on.
Yeah, so Council Pasillo, I've known Jenny for a long time. She's great. I think she's great.
An absolutely wonderful human being.
Yeah, I love her family, and I want to push back a little bit on Bill Shaner, who in his article, basically said Jenny was not a good counselor, and I want to push back on Bill on that because I don't know what that's based on. Maybe she didn't vote the way he wanted her to vote in certain places.
I'm not sure when that was.
Yeah.
She has been solidly, at least on many issues, part of that 5 minority.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm not sure. I think Jenny has voted, for my own personal taste, quite effectively for me.
Yeah, I think. So I thought Jenny ran one of the best campaigns in like Worcester city history, in that it was positive. She had a good relationship with her opponent. She was, obviously she knew what she was talking about. She knew the issues in her district. She knew the people in her district, the power players, all those things. I have to say this, that I think she did. I'm going to say it. I think she did a billion times better than her predecessor, Sean Rose, in developing that community and in doing the things that the constituents wanted. And so I think Jenny was a good counselor. Obviously, as a single vote, it's really hard to influence things. I also thought some of the things Jenny had to say on the council floor were good. Again, it's hard in a first term situation to expect them to make sea changes in the city of Worcester. We just spent an hour talking about how badly mismanaged it is, but it's not mismanaged by Jenny. It's mismanaged by the majority, and has been for a long time. And so I just think she was treated unfairly in that recent article by Bill, and just it was unnecessary, right? So, but now it opens the door to maybe the worst scenario that we could possibly expect. I will say this about Council Russell. I want to be fair to him as well. I think that he was a champion for schools in the city consistently throughout his career, particularly within his district. He fought for funding for the schools. He fought for repairs in some of those schools, which were very terrible. I think it's interesting how we have people celebrating new schools being built over the past 6 or 7 years. However, part of the reason they have to build those new schools is how poorly they managed them for years. Former Superintendent Bienda might have something to say about that, right? There was just terrible treatment of the things, windows with tarps on them, no heat for kids, no air conditioning in the summer, just ridiculous stuff that those kids were forced to go through. And George consistently, was an advocate for that. And George was one of the few counselors, maybe ever, who questioned individual budget items during the budget hearings throughout his term, right? So the 14 years he was there, he consistently asked questions about the money of the city of Worcester, which, by the way, they're spending our money on nonsense. And the city is poorly managed, as this one snowstorm is still affecting the city streets. Just one, Tom, this year. One. It wasn't even a big storm, it was 5 inches, and the city is still wrecked more than a week later. Poorly managed nonsense. And George did question that on a regular basis. So good for George. And maybe just 14 years, he's getting older. Good for him. I don't have anything bad to say about George.
No, George. I mean, he's a very nice guy. When at least for me, always picks up when I call. Then tells me we're only going to talk a few minutes. He's got to do something, and then it's a half an hour later. Because he knows the issues, and he's a lot of fun to talk to. Again, don't agree with him all the time, but good man, and sad. Sorry to see him go, but he also said, I think in an interview with the Telegram, that it's time for younger, new leadership to step up. And so in District 1, in Jenny's seat, former councilor in that district, Tony Economou, announced he's going to run. I don't know that. I'm not sure who would bother coming forward, because he's probably gonna rake.
Well, I kind of hope Dave, the guy from the Bravehearts, I hope he runs again, and at least him I like. But this guy was not good when he was there the first time. He got voted out, right? Didn't Sean Rose beat him? Or who beat him? Someone beat him.
Tony. So I know Tony a bit. Tony's a great guy. Again, don't always agree with his politics. Good guy. Did some work with him at a certain radio station in town when he had a show there, and so I got to know him a little bit there.
That was produced by Manny Alvarado at one point, wasn't it? Wasn't that?
It was indeed.
Wow.
I meant to say earlier about decorum, just because I want to give a shout out. Really, if yelling is not allowed in city council, how did Gary Rosen serve so long there? Every time the man doesn't know how to speak, he only knows how to yell.
I love Gary. Gary's great.
I absolutely love Gary. So
hey, Gary, run for District 1, will you, Gary?
I thought of that because Gary and Tony did that show together. Right. But yeah, Tony's a great guy. Also in the real estate business. So I've got to know him a little bit. Strong advocate for business. At least from what I understand, at this very, very early stage, wants to focus on city issues. So he's kind of getting on that line of discussion that's gone through council for a bit. I would imagine he'll end up running unopposed, is my guess, because he's going to be strong in that district. He used to serve there. He was not reelected, but he ran at large and finished. I think that was the year that Councilor Calorio figuratively came out of nowhere to steal the 6th spot, and he was 7th. And so, but I'd imagine, I don't know who could step forward in that district now and be competitive with Tony, who's got a big network there and has lived there forever and served there previously.
My only thing is that, I'm not going to decry your personal relationship, that him that well, but I'm going to say this again: the votes, he's coming from, in my opinion, again, this consistent track record of big business outside of Worcester being supported over small business inside of Worcester. And I just, again, even it's sad that it's Sean's world that Dave said he's not going to run again, but even the Worcester Bravehearts, perfect example. We had a minor league baseball team in the city of Worcester, a organic homegrown team, and the city of Worcester went and got themselves another minor league team to compete with their own homegrown team, which, by the way, the Bravehearts continue to do very, very well, because it's a better product. And I will challenge anybody on the baseball side of the things. That's because the Red Sox owners don't really care about you at all. It's just a money making machine for them to sell you $7 slices of pizza. So that it is what it is, right? Just a machine to take your money. And realistically, they don't even care about your money. They don't want you to go to the ballpark. They want people from Framingham to drive to Worcester to see, whoever's on a rehab assignment from the Red Sox and pay their $7 for pizza. And then ship that money now out to a New York corporation because, again, they're not owned by the Red Sox. Anyway, but I
Uh,
digress.
right. They own, but that's a whole different story. Is they're
Yeah,
owned by a New York corporation that owns many, many, many minor league ball teams, which is interesting. But that's a different and not Worcester story. Yeah. And from what I understand, Tony and Tony Economou and Dave Peterson, who ran in that district last time, they're pretty close. I can't imagine Dave's going to run against him. And apparently is adamant, according to Shawnee, that he won't run again. They don't. Dave's another guy. Don't love his politics. One of the most wonderful human beings alive. Like really, a genuinely great guy.
I thought again, and I thought I also disagreed with several of Dave's positions, but I thought one of the better candidates ever. He just happened to run against Jenny, and Jenny was great at what she was doing. But I loved Dave and loved the conversations. I got to meet him a few times. Manny interviewed him. We tried to. They actually the only counselors who were willing to do like a debate kind of thing were Dave and Jenny. Everybody else kind of blew it off because they went to the kind of normally run debate series that we've seen over the couple of years, which is, you go to a place, the moderator asks one question and everybody answers the same exact way, no difference, no, you don't see anything except for Attell, who stands out on a regular basis. But it was always the same answers, kind of going through there. Dave and Jenny were open to that. We just couldn't get it together in time. Hopefully this cycle, maybe this week in Worcester, we'll be able to host some stuff. Have maybe Manny and Tom asking questions, which would give kind of, a dueling perspective during this cycle. We'll see what we can do.
Maybe, just maybe.
Maybe it'll be remote participation, Tom. I don't know.
So Tony Khan was running in District 20, announced last week, soon after Jenny announced that she wouldn't run. District 2 looks like a rematch between Councilor Merrill Carlson and Rob Bellotta. Rob Bellotta lost by, it was a significant percentage, but there was a low turnout, so it was only a few hundred votes numerically. It's certainly within reach. Rob's been active in Worcester forever on a range of different issues, and I've already said, as a human being, Kenny Merrill Carlson I think is wonderful, despite recent issues. Rob's a great guy and works hard on disability rights and a whole bunch of other stuff in the city. That's maybe the most interesting district race because it was sort of close last time. It was close numerically. It's hard to bet against an incumbent with a whole bunch of money in the bank from previous cycles, though.
Yeah, I guess it is hard, but I would say this: I think Rob has gotten some pretty decent fundraising in this time, and so I think that there's a chance. I also think that Candy's vote for the apology actually might be affecting her with her base, because there's a lot of negativity over there in the old Hills of Worcester groups there towards Candy for that vote. So maybe there's a chance for Rob. I actually think Rob's a tremendous advocate for the city of Worcester, and I'm not saying this in an against Candy thing. I'm mostly saying this in a pro Rob thing, in that he would offer a perspective as a disabled counselor that no one's ever offered, right? And so it would be a unique, distinct, and different perspective. And man, does that city council need at least a mental wash of some kind, right? I mean, so obviously there would be accommodation things that would have to take place, and I think that it would be good for the city. But it's not just because of that. Rob is one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life, and you would not know that he's disabled except the fact that he's in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? He's more capable than me at pretty much everything, and other than his physical limitations, and I think that a guy like that would be a tremendous advocate for the city of Worcester, and I think that he loves Worcester. Again, I want people who love Worcester people, not necessarily love the Worcester system, right? And I think that that's the kind of person that, and most people will probably that are watching this that are my people that watch our show will be like surprised because Rob's politics are probably not necessarily the things that I would vote for, right? But I think he just loves Worcester. Again, he's similar to a Talon that he cares about people, and for that I would say that alone he deserves a look from the constituents in his district.
District 3, which will be Councilor Russell's seat until he completes this current term. An interesting entrant, John, I believe pronounced Frizzolo, who's a former state rep who was forced out. He served, I think, 2009 to 2013, if I remember correctly, and was sort of forced out on some ethics complaints that, of course, he claims was all nonsense. But I discovered today there was a book written about how it was all nonsense, interestingly enough. So I don't know a ton about him, to be honest with you. It was, he was in office before I really started really tying into this stuff. So I don't know a bunch about him, but there's certainly some baggage there to attack.
I'm sorry. Our viewers, man.
That's
you can't do it. You can't do
it.
Why?
Because Johnny, you're killing me.
What do you
Absolutely
mean?
hysterical.
You can see it. It's so funny, man. I don't know what.
It's so good.
For those of you who can't see our chat, we have a live chat that's it pops up from all the different things.
Yeah, if you're on the same platform as Shawnee, you can see it. Otherwise, you
see what Shawnee wrote. Go on Elon Musk's platform and check it out. It's too much.
Moving on, and also there is speculation and some reason to speculate that former school committee member Jamal Kamara will also run for that seat, which is, I mean, you can look at this two ways. Well, when the districts broke down, when school districts broke down, she was not reelected. But when she was originally reelected, I mean, it was an exhibition in retail politics. I mean, that girl knocked some doors. She worked hard.
She outworked people. I will say this, Tom, during the show, Jamal did text me back and said that we'll make a final announcement sometime soon. So
yeah, so she's considering. So that's I don't know what to think there. I mean, you got to think that a former state rep is gonna bring some connections and probably money, whatever. But he's an interesting case. I mean, he's been out of at least the state house for some time. Left there in a situation that wasn't good, and now there's a lot of question about if that was appropriate or not. Again, I haven't dove into this very heavily, but you'd imagine that stuff's going to come up on the campaign trail, so that could be what they call a poop show. If that old stuff is going to get dug up again, could turn ugly.
For sure.
In District 4, I don't think anybody else has announced. Assuming Councilor Ojeda will run for re-election, he hasn't announced either way yet. In District 5, we also appear to have our second rematch from 2 years ago with Councilor Hajai, and Jose Rivera has said he will run again.
to keep the boxing theme going, usually there's three of them. There's usually one, and the other, and then the third. To finish the boxing matches. So we'll see how it goes. In District 4, by the way, real quick, I'm a District 4 guy. Last time there was 5 candidates, right? So at least in the primary season there was 5. So maybe we'll see another group of folks running in. And it was to my District 4 fellow residents out there. The turnout was still very low, and you are actually one of the most populous of districts, but very much don't vote. And so go get voted, man. Get voted in District 4.
The districts are the same size.
Yeah. Well, I mean the peoples.
No, I mean by population, they're the same size.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But they don't vote in that district. In my district, they don't. Yeah. In fact, I can tell you this: that in my house, which has 15 residents, I was the only vote. And so there you go. There's the difference. And I think Louis won by like less than 100 votes. It wasn't a huge spread.
No, I mean, look, and I think any district race, really, if you can turn out any new voters, you probably win.
Sean, I think that Attell could take him in a real fist fight. That's my personal opinion. Saying, and the speculation, it's John Edward Keough speculation, but I don't know. I think Jose's lost a step, so I feel like she would outbox him.
I still don't want that dude to hit me.
I'm getting in so much trouble for that on both sides. That's just on both sides. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Look, that race was so ugly last time. Hopefully, it's not bad again.
Huge turnout.
Yeah. I hope that it's not bad again, because it was really nasty.
It was horrible.
And for 2 very nice people.
Yeah.
At large, nobody that is currently in office has announced either way.
And Mayor Petty announced multiple times on.
Oh, that's true. He has said he will run again.
Said he's running again multiple times.
I mean, I think it's pretty fair to assume that incumbents are running again unless they say otherwise.
Yeah, it would be nice if a couple of them said no.
No comment. I think the most interesting announcement thus far at large was Sean Rose, which I didn't expect. Running at large. Again, great guy. I consider Sean a friend. Knew him long before I even paid attention to Worcester politics. Kind of like I've said about some other people, didn't always love the way he voted, but good person. Satya Mitra, who's a local tax guy, and
I just want to make sure I'm on the record as saying I reserve my public opinion on Mr. Rose to myself.
Fair enough. Satya Mitra, who's a local tax guy and business owner or entrepreneur or whatever, has announced he'll run at large.
He raised a huge amount of money in his first 3 weeks, $10,000 for a first time at large run. $10,000, a lot of money.
Ooh, who we got it from must be interesting.
I believe he got a large group from the India Society, or whatever was a
okay.
There's a pack. We have to run this down more, but and I've heard a couple rumors. I've already stated this online. I've heard some rumors that that he could raise north of $100,000, which we've never really seen in the city of Worcester.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
And I don't mean for his I mean that would set up a really bad precedent. But it is his right to do as he wishes.
My only thing about him is that he's another advocate for big business. Another guy who loves big business. So
yeah, it appears at least thus far that the pro-business candidate. And also Charles Luster, who's a local, I don't know if you call him an activist. I guess you could call him an activist who's been very active in Worcester for a long time in local communities. and also local activist David Webb has announced he's running at large.
Wasn't Charles' wife a city councilor at one point?
Was he?
Wasn't Charles? No, his wife. His
So.
wife was at one point.
I'm not sure about that. How long ago?
Tell you right now. Yep, Stacey Worcester. First, she was the first Black woman ever elected to the city of Worcester.
Yep.
Yeah. 1997. She's been out for a long time. She's also like a big advocate. She does a lot of fundraising for like Mechanics Hall and a lot of organizations around Commonwealth Group, all those groups.
So I mean, I think that this discussion is probably real. I mean, this is all early, right? You can't even pull papers yet to file, never mind file to run. So, this is all very early and speculative. But I mean, this conversation really depends on if everybody's running again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, of the four, even Charles, Sean, and then Satya, the four like challengers, I guess, 3 of the 4 are associated with big business in the city of Worcester. So I mean, it doesn't really open a door in my mind other than David. And again, David and I have had our throwdowns in the past. I just don't see in the big list of things other than the people that are already there, anybody who's like pro small business, that's pro small people, and that's really, my concern is about finding a candidate who is about helping local people that are here from Worcester grow, whether it's their families, their footprint, their legacies, or their small businesses. We just don't see a candidate like that that you would think has a chance. And I'm not saying I don't want to like decry anybody's chances because that's not fair, especially when we have platforms and we can talk about it. I don't want to talk anybody down. Vote for who you want to vote for. But I want to see people that actually care about local people. I thought in District 4 the last time, Katya Norford, who is a Worcester local her whole life, immigrant family, a small business owner from District 4, right? Like, she was a great example of somebody who like really cared about that stuff. And I think Louis is fine. And I had said in the race I couldn't pick one or the other because I thought they both would do a good job representing District 4. And but again, those are in the districts. We don't really see that in at large field, Tom, that you get like someone who actually cares. And to be honest with you, let me be fair. Councilor Nguyen, I don't know that they are necessarily an advocate for small business either, right? So it's not like we just don't see that. It's just so much about developers and big companies and big investments and all these huge things. What about us? What about the people that are here? What about the people that are from here? How do you help develop local people and local things? That's really what I want to see.
Well, that would take a generational long commitment to education, which we're obviously not going to do. Which is not. If it can't be done in the next 2 years, we're not going to do it. It's just that simple. That's just the nature of the electoral cycle. And then for school committee, nothing really moving yet except for in District E. Kathy Roy has a challenger, Noella Chafoya. Know nothing about that person at all.
By the way, I have to re-say my pledge, Tom, that if Maureen shifts to city council and runs for mayor, that I will run for mayor, and my shirts will say I'm running against Maureen, right? So I want to reaffirm my public pledge that I will run if Maureen runs for mayor. I will run against her and her alone.
From what I understand, that individual intends to run for a city council. I mean, for school committee again. That's just what I hear. I don't, they have not announced anything. That individual.
I'm just making my positions clear.
Understood. So that's kind of where we're at now. There's some interesting stuff happening. Of course, again, I don't think they can pull part. I think it's May. I feel like it's March 14th for some reason. There's a day you can start pulling papers. I could have the day wrong, but it's Oh,
that
that's
March 4th.
close. I don't know one.
You,
Leave me alone.
you did good. You did good.
So yeah, I mean, that's the first time you can even get the papers, so you can go get your 200 signatures or whatever it is, to get on the ballot. So it's still pretty early, but
for at large, 100 for a district.
it was 200. No, whatever.
Live
So
fact checking.
that's where that's at. I thought it was worth, there's some interesting stuff happening there, and thought it was worth an early conversation about election. I promise we won't do election for half an hour every week, for a while at least. And that brings us to John's favorite feature.
It's not just it's just not, dude, it's not just my favorite feature. It is by far in the interweb the number one part of the show. Everybody watching is waiting with bated breath for the best part of the show, which is where I ask you about your favorite things. They have been waiting for weeks now, 2 weeks for this question, and so we will not fail to deliver to them. We've asked a lot of questions about food over the years. Months that we've been doing the show, but it feels like years sometimes because the city of Worcester definitely makes you feel like it's taken. John's going to drop the bomb. Yeah, Marie just wants me to swear. I'm not asking Tom his favorite swears. Maybe that'll be a future show, but not this week. All right, not this week.
We try to remain like PG to PG-13. We sometimes fail, but we're not going to intentionally fail.
But what I shall ask this week is something that's on my mind. I have been eating healthier lately. I have influences in my life. The people want me to eat healthier, that want me to be, a little bit better in my food. So I can't eat the things that I like the most. And the thing that I like the most is pizza. It is pizza. So, Tom, this is a tough one for you. And I'm not going to ask you your favorite pizza place, right? We've done that already. What I want to ask you, though, is what is your favorite kind of pizza?
We did do that. Oh, no, maybe we did pizza place.
We did pizza place.
And you had a kind of pizza, like topping or like
yeah. What kind of pizza? No, not just topping, style. You know what I mean? Do you like a New Haven? Do you like a bar pizza? What do you like? What's the favorite thing, man? What's going on? A Chicago deep dish, Detroit, the messy one, whatever. What do you want? What do you like?
It's pizza.
How
can it be bad? It's great. It's amazing. I mean, it's a weird question because, like, what pizza wouldn't you eat, right? Like I guess the question is, what is your favorite? I don't know. So I'm cheap, and there's a Papa John's close to me, which is total trash. Don't get me wrong, but like when you're dealing in the Papa John's trash pizza realm, they're thick. I forget what they call it. They call it Chicago style or not, but they're like thick crust pizzas, decent. It's certainly better than the plastic that comes in a circle. But yeah, no, I just a traditional, I mean, and I get very moody about what goes on it. I can swing from like, let's just dump like all the animal carcass of the world on it to like, let's get pepper and onion. I can go from, pretty wide range. But just like a traditional, not, super thin crust, although the Corner Grill was my favorite pizza place ever. But like a, traditional crust, I don't need cheese and like a bunch of stuff crammed in the crust of my pizza. Like I don't need the heartburn. Just to like, spread the dough out and put some sauce and cheese and things on it. Like, let's keep it simple.
I would say my favorite style of pizza is probably bar pizza. Always has been, and that's because I'm from the ghetto and we grew up.
How is bar pizza different from regular pizza?
Oh, so like Cape Cod Cafe, Christo's smaller pizza. It's like a thinner, you know what I mean, that kind of deal. Versus like a New Haven, which is like thicker crust with the burnt pockets and bubbles all over the place, and Metropolitan, which has the sauce on top versus the cheese on top. Things like there's a bunch of different
sacrilegious
of pizza. I know I'm anti Metropolitan and a Neapolitan as those are the two styles with the sauce on top. I that is not pizza to me. That's like a garden salad with bread. And it's usually shaped funny too. It's just like the rectangles. And Sean said deep dish is not pizza. I when you're thinking like an Uno's kind of deep dish, Sean, like the heavy thick one, yeah, that's a casserole. But I mean like, oh, I'm a pizza pro. I love pizza. I'm a big pizza fan, and I feel like I'm thinking about pizza more because I'm not eating it as much. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to be healthy. I'm eating carrots and drinking cranberry juice. You know, good stuff. I had an ulcer, dude. What do you want? I had an ulcer. I got to like
Did you
pack.
really?
Yeah, so last year I had a 3-inch ulcer. I discovered after I passed out one day, and woke up and didn't know who I was. So I decided, yeah, I should go to the doctor for the first time in 20 years.
That's a good
I
reason.
I went to the doctor and they were like, "Hey, you got to go to the hospital," you know. And they found a 3-inch hole in my stomach, and then I went through. I had gained a lot of weight. You remember, I gained a bunch of weight, and I was like heavy. And I thought that the weight that I gained was just like normal, but it wasn't. It was inflammation. I wasn't even. It wasn't even weight gain. So I've lost some weight over the past month since the surgery, and then you know, I gotta be even better. You know what I mean? Because I'm getting older. You gotta like act normal if you want to extend your life and not be completely retarded. So oops, bad word. Not be completely ridiculous. Got to be better than that. That's bad. That was a bad word.
Yeah, no, that's not that good. Yeah, I guess I don't. I guess my pizza knowledge is because like now Shawnee's talking about St. Louis style pizza, which he says is
Ooh.
absolute trash.
It's a little weird. St. Louis is a little weird. They do strange things out in the Midwest. Detroit pizza too is like similar to St. Louis. It's just like a mess. It's just like a pile of stuff. It's just weird how they make it out there. It's just strange. They eat it with forks. It's weird. I don't know. Again, you get a pizza is a slice, man. You eat a slice and you go like this. Hey, you know what I mean? A little slice action. That's what you got to do.
And
That's me.
well, your ulcer's gone now. You can go back to pizza, can't you?
Huh?
Your ulcer's gone. You can go back to pizza.
I can eat a little bit, but I can't. I used to eat pizza constantly. Like I can't do it anymore. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I used to like justify in my mind, be like, oh, if I had like a little pepperoni, you throw like a hot pepper on there. I got vegetables. I got all the food groups, right? You got bread. You got dairy. You got veggies. You got it all. That was my excuse, but you can't do that anymore. So
fair enough. Sorry for my mealy mouth response, but I was like, it's pizza. Just eat it.
he's like, pizza, just eat it.
Just eat it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if somebody puts a pizza with me with the sauce on top, though. I don't know. I might just look at them like.
I will tell you this. Lately, I did see this like a garlic sauce or like a white sauce pizza. Not bad. Not terrible. Not terrible. You know what I mean? Doesn't always
But I mean,
have to be tomatoes, Tom. You could throw anything in there.
You could.
You could put a cheese sauce under the cheese. You could do that. You could double up the cheese, man. You could put a meat sauce under there. You can do whatever you want.
If you put a cheese sauce under the cheese, at what hour and on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would the pain be? Like at what hour would you wake up, A, and then B, on a scale of 1 to 10, how deeply would you wake up with your fingers embedded in your chest trying to pull your esophagus out because your stomach fluids are just in your throat hanging out?
Hey man, listen. I don't know. I mean, pizza is like a worldwide phenomenon. This dude, what's his name, Portnoy, there from Barstool Sports, who, by the way, sometimes can't stand that dude at all. But anyways, he's got a whole thing with the pizza review thing. It's like a massive hit for him. So maybe we should do pizza reviews. We can get really going too, because if you go on Worcester Still Eats and you mention that you like a pizza place other than one or the other, man, people will light you on fire.
Really?
In fact, that might be the way to win the election in the city of Worcester. You pick the right place. You know what I mean? Just talk like you said Central Grill. Just talk about the nostalgia with Central Grill. So
and then talk about how your opponent likes the other place.
Yeah, your opponent likes Golden or something, and not Golden on Chandler. Golden over on Grafton Hill, right? And everybody will set your life on fire. By the way, the guy that owns that Golden, he's a nice guy. I like that guy. I bought a pizza from there once or twice.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been up there forever,
He's a
but
nice man.
yeah.
I like him.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is a wrap at 1:38. So we kind of failed, but that's all right.
Yeah, but we made up for last week, so it's really like split the difference. 45 minutes. We're under. That's how it is.
Look at that. Look at us on time.
Hey.
So thank you for your participation this week. Unlike last week when you ditched us all.
And I did. I failed you all last week.
We will try to screw it up less next week. We do this every Sunday at 8:35ish.
The 200 plus people that are watching us on Elon Musk's platform, they must enjoy what we're talking about here. So
I hope so. Yeah, the number was good numbers this week, kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, keep coming back.
Thank you to all that watched and participated in the chat. See you next Sunday.
If you want to sponsor This Week in Worcester podcast, reach out. See, dude, how do I have to do that for you all the time? What's going on? All right, now you can go.